like,
yeah.
oh, that's why you say don't be afraid. Oh, I would be very afraid.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, God, how come I can't ever see the angels and show me the pretty angels, Lord? And we're so deceived and delulu.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Marcel. This is my beautiful wife, Nikki, and we are Renewed Love.
Hey, y'all.
How you feeling today?
I feel better than what your voice is sounding like. What happened to your voice?
Yeah, no explanation. Voice decided to skip town.
You got to put the FBI on the case to find the voice.
However, it's better than what it was this whole week. So
agreed. I honestly like your voice like that. I think it sounds sexy.
Not how it was before. I could barely talk. This is okay.
How, other than that, you asked me how I was doing. I'm okay. I had an endoscopy done yesterday, which is when they put a camera down your throat to your esophagus to your stomach and all of that stuff. And so I'm still trying to push out the rest of that anesthesia, but oh my gosh. So I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good.
Yeah. It's weird how there's some days you could be doing nothing. Like we were at that place for a while yesterday, and
oh my gosh, I was so antsy. I was like, can I go home? Like, why am I still here? Because we got there about 8:15 in the morning yesterday. And by the time we left, it was after 7 p.m. And I'm like, bro, I want to go home. They said the procedure took about 20 minutes?
Yeah.
And then
20 minutes.
You said I was back there for an hour?
We were back there for an hour.
Or so? Yeah, I was so ready to go home. I was like, can we please go home? Can I please go home?
Yeah, but it's weird how we were just pretty much doing nothing yesterday, and the tiredness was just there.
I don't know what your excuse was, but my excuse was anesthesia.
I know, but yeah.
I don't know what your excuse was.
You know they say when baby sleeps, you sleep? That's what that was.
So your baby was sleeping, you decided to sleep?
Yeah. Yeah.
Trash. Anyway, so would you rather stick to traditional gender roles in our home, or would you rather share the responsibilities equally, even if it causes some friction?
Good questions. One after another.
So would you rather stick to typical traditional gender roles that makes our life easier, or have a shared responsibility of the gender roles, even if it causes some friction?
I think going outside the norm. I mean, granted, it may cause some friction, but going outside the norm to what works best for us is what I would go with. Because you think about it, the responsibilities are shared. You know, it's in our case. You're at home all the time, but you definitely get tired. You know, you're just because you're home all the time doesn't mean that you're not working. Doesn't mean that you're not doing things. But for me to be able to step in and take that load off of you makes it better for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think it's a case by case type of situation. I think we've been kind of wanting to do a video like this for a while, talking about gender roles and stuff. And I think the times where maybe our parents or our grandparents or great grandparents used to have these preconceived gender roles, like mom was, or grandmother or whatever, was the woman was in the kitchen. She was cooking and cleaning and
right.
Exactly. What was that song? Yes, I do the cooking. Yes, I do the whatever that was. But yeah, that was her role, homemaker was her role. Like, get the kids, sit at home, make sure the kids are taken care of, clean, cook, all of that, make sure the kids, their homeworks are done and all of these things. And the men were the providers.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have grown up in a society where men are only supposed to be providers. And that shows up as love, that shows up as support, that shows up as I take care of my kids and I'm always there for my kids when the husband or the man is in the home. Right. But we forget, like, I think now is why we have so many adults that suffer from abandonment, rejection. They don't know how to share feelings. They don't know how to talk about their feelings and all of these things, because we've lived a life of the man is the provider, the woman is the nurturer, and she's the homemaker.
Right.
Like, that's it. And I feel like because of these former gender roles, some men still have the same ideology, and it's kind of scary. But then on the flip side of that, some women are like, I want to go work and you stay at home. And so then we have these reverse roles of what took place when our grandparents and great grandparents and so on were coming up. And so it's like this two-step dance, if you will, that we have to do. But I think back to my original statement, I think it is a case-by-case situation. Like, what does your marriage require? Right. What does your relationship require? Specifically marriage, because if you are in a relationship and you're unmarried, you probably shouldn't be having roles per se, because you shouldn't be really living together, so they say. Whatever, I digress. Anyway.
Whole different topic.
Whole different topic. But I do feel like for our case, there are some traditional roles, but then there also are some non-traditional roles.
And I also think it's more of playing into your spouse's strengths at times. Because when I'm at work, you cook dinner, and then I help out by when I'm on my day, when it's my days off, and I cook dinner, I cook breakfast as well. But just to lighten that load on you, and I know, not saying that you can't do it, not saying that you don't have the strength to do it or anything like that, but as a way for me to, like I said, lighten the load and show you that how much I love you, even though it's my day off, I provide that for you.
You do. You do such a great job. I love my days off. Like, I don't have to cook. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to clean. Like, I live for those days.
Exactly.
But no, like, so what would you say? Because I know that your situation, your parents were young when they had you. They were teenagers. We were teen parents. My parents were in their 20s, but they didn't really have the best relationship either. It was kind of some toxic things happening. Yeah. So, what would you say in your experience, or what you've seen when it comes to gender roles and men? Like, what has been the perceived ideology as it comes to what a man is supposed to or not supposed to do?
I'm trying to figure this out because my mom and dad never were really living together or together at all.
So your parents were not married?
They were not married. Never even lived together that I know of. But of course, my mom had boyfriends and stuff, and it was the most consistent boyfriend she had. He was more of, he's going out providing, she's at home taking care of everything else. So that's what I grew up on. And
was there emotional support coming from that particular boyfriend?
Not
like, could you go to him, like, if you were feeling some type of way, something was going on in school or whatever, like, could you go to him and have emotional, if you will, conversations?
I could, but it was more of a tough love situation. It was very harsh at times, but I guess that it was an outlet of some sort, but it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to sit here and listen to what's going on with you. But yeah.
Do you find that? So let me respond to that. So for me, my father was not an emotional support system that I could go to and utilize. He was kind of sort of a provider, but my mom also worked. My mom was in school, in college, that kind of thing. And uh, it was very much so, it's a weird and toxic environment. But like thinking back to even my grandmother and my grandfather, I think I've shared this story before, but I didn't realize that my grandparents weren't married until I was like 13. He was always present. He was always there. He was more of a father to me than my actual father was. He was always at my grandmother's house, like all the time, every day. They had like this thing in the morning, like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Like they got coffee. If it was warm outside, they're sitting underneath the apple trees, drinking coffee and just talking. And I remember one day I asked her, like, Grandma, why doesn't Granddaddy stay here? And she was like, Girl, we not married. And I was like, clutching my proverbial pearls, because I'm like, say what? Like, he's always here. Y'all always doing life together. What do you mean you're not married? And she was like, just sometimes people get along better as friends than they do as husband and wives. And so I really thought that was profound, but how he showed up for her. So he was still a provider. He was still providing for his well-grown children at that time. Like he was more of a provider. Now, when we talk about emotions and like sharing your feelings and things like that, I didn't come from that type of environment. So it's a wonder why I am the way that I am, where I'm always talking about my feelings and always getting other people to share their feelings too. Because I feel like that's a stigmatism in the Black community, the African American community, where you just don't share your feelings. Like, cousin Pookie is weird and they told you he was weird, but nobody told you why he was weird, like what kind of stuff he's into. We just know we don't go over there, and you don't let your kids go over there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and you kind of figure it out through context clues. That is irritating to me. Like, let's talk about things that are happening inside of our families. And like I said, in the Black community, in the Black culture, we tend to sweep things up under a rug, and now we got a little molehill that's now turned into this giant mountain, and everybody's just walking around it. We see it, but we don't talk about it. And that's a problem in our community, because then we grow up and become these adult people who don't talk about things, who don't share our issues, our problems, who don't communicate what we're feeling, and we tend to internalize. And then now that's manifesting into high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, like the whole list of things. That is a problem. And so back to the whole gender roles conversation. Were you going to say anything to that?
And I was gonna say it's even worse being a Black man, because even as men in general, we were told men don't cry, and it's an added layer with you being a Black man. So
100%. And then you become grown Black men in these big ages, and you don't share your feelings, you don't cry, you don't talk about what's going on with you, you don't talk about when things are stressing you out, and you just keep doing what you know how to do, which is work, work, work. And then what? Right? You don't dream, you don't have like, and it's interesting that all of these concepts usually stem from when we were children. Like, we don't take the time to understand why something has been this way for so long. We just go along with it. My mama did it like this, my daddy did it like this, my grandparents did it like this, so I'm gonna do it like this. But why? But why? Like, why do we believe that? Why have we never sought the truth?
So true.
And I think that's a big thing. I was sharing with one of my friends the other day that my grandmother was born and raised in the church. She loved God, she loved Jesus, and she loved the Holy Spirit, baby. Okay, that lady was a tongue talking, Bible reading, floor walking, prayer walking woman. Do you hear me? Okay, we were in church, had me in church Sunday through Saturday. It was a whole thing. Okay. But she also had this ideology and grew up believing, because of her pastor saying, unless you speak in tongues, you can't make it to heaven. And I remember when I was younger being like, Grandma, that don't even make sense. Because every word that I've seen and every word that I've read says, if you believe in your heart, if you confess with your mouth, believe in your heart that Jesus died on the cross and rose again 3 days later for your sins, then you shall be saved. Point blank, period. That's it. Nothing else. At the bare minimum, say this, believe this, saved. Say this plus believe this equals saved. Where does it say in that scripture that you got to learn how to speak it, or do you need to know how to speak in tongues in order to be saved? And I was like, and I remember questioning her and asking her that because I've always been an inquisitive child / person. But like, where you get that from?
Yep.
And so we believe these false ideologies or these false narratives, and we just run through life like that.
Mhm.
She went to her grave saying that same statement. And I'm like, it don't say that, Grandma. That is not what the Bible. Well, Pastor said, no. When we gonna read the book for ourselves? When we gonna learn for ourselves? Doesn't the Bible say, study to show yourself approved?
Fact check with the Bible.
So I feel like we've grown up with these false narratives and things that we just hold on to for life without knowing what the truth is. We never end up knowing what the truth is. Your inability to share your emotions, your inability to cry as a man, your inability to allow your children to see you in a vulnerable state is a problem. This is why we got angry men. Mm-hmm. This is why we have angry black men. They were never shown how to distribute their anger, how to share their anger, how to deal with it, deal with anger and frustration. And now you're mad at the world and everything is everybody else's fault because we can't take ownership. Mm-hmm. We can't take responsibility. And then we again, we're blaming everybody else, but then we don't want to deal with anything. Dealing with things is hard work. It's hard work. And so when we think about these gender roles, we live in a time now where women want to be successful. Mm-hmm. They want to be wealthy. They want to have the children and the family, but they still want to do their part, if you will. Yeah. Like they still want to make the money. They still want to make sure that the kids are taken care of. The husbands are taken care of. The husband is taken care of. But they want to work. They want to go to school. They want to, they don't want to just sit at home and be Susie Homemaker. Like that's great for some people, and some people do want that lifestyle, that princess lifestyle, and that's fine. But I think there needs to be a balance, and I think that there needs to be a redefining of what gender roles are.
For sure, it's going back to what you said about not showing emotion, and you're wondering why kids are lashing out at their other friends or their teachers or stuff like that, and they're still doing it in their adult life. And because they never had that outlet, they never were shown how to release that. So
because we've been kids that have grown up to become adults who still operate the same way. Like we've never sought the truth. We just think this is the way it is. This is the way I've always been. This is me. That's not the case. Like that doesn't have to be.
You don't figure out how this is you or how to change that, or
like my thing is like, when do we stop dreaming? When do we stop being inquisitive? Like we allow the amount of people that we see on a regular basis that's like, oh my God, you live in Mexico? Oh my God, why? Like these closed-mindedness, again, ideologies and thought processes and narratives, like where did this come from? Why is there so much fear incited about living in a different country or working a different job outside of what you always thought you were supposed to do, being an entrepreneur? Like, why is there so much negative and narrative around these things? It's because we never sought the truth. We were taught to go to school. You got to go to school. You got to get good grades. Try to get a scholarship if you don't have money to pay for college, but also know that there's loans and grants out there available to you. Graduate magna cum whatever. Like make sure you do the best that you can do so that you can either run off and be a part of a sports team or graduate with honors so that you can get a top tier job. Work for however many ungodly years, retire at the age of 65 or whatever the retirement age is now, and you retire on pennies on the dollar. And then what you have to show for your life? You didn't travel. You never got your passport. You never did anything with your life other than go to school and go to work. Because that is what's, maybe have a family, but that is what's been ingrained, right? Our grandparents and our parents, what did they do? They went out, they were picking cotton, they were working, they were slaves, they were whatever, but all they knew was work.
Yeah.
That's it.
But and then you think in the schools they taught you nothing but to.
All they prepare you to work.
Work for people.
Yeah.
The report cards were resumes. Following instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of these jobs will tell you they want to see what your school record is like, because now we know you could be disciplined to be a worker.
Exactly.
Because you made it to school every day, you did the work to study and pass the classes. Now that means you're prepared to work for somebody to make somebody else rich at the end of the day. That is what we have been shaped to know since birth. But nobody ever took time to find out the truth. Nobody ever took time. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. If that's not your plight, then don't worry about it, baby. Ain't nobody talking to you. However, for those of us that have had dreams and desires to do more and be more outside of working a typical 9 to 5, why did we stop dreaming?
Right. When do we stop dreaming?
Why and when did we stop dreaming? Why and when did we stop knowing and understanding that there was more out there for us? A lot of us have such a deep desire to travel. A lot of us have a deep desire to be a dancer, to speak a different language, and you feel like because you're 40, 50, and 60 or whatever, like it's too late for you. A lot of people have a desire to be married. And because they're 40, 50, 60, they've already shut that down. And it's like, oh, well, that means it's not going to happen for me. But when did we stop dreaming? Why? The Bible talks about, he gives us the desires of our heart. And that means if that is a desire of yours to be married, to be an entrepreneur, to be wealthy, to be whatever, he placed said desire in your heart, which means this is why he's going to give you the desires of your heart. But now, because life has been lifing, you've gotten off track, and now you just feel like, oh, it's never going to happen. Right, yeah. And so now you stop dreaming. Now you stop envisioning this process of what it's going to look like for you to get married, or what it's going to look like for you to have children, or what it's going to look like for you to be an entrepreneur. You just quit. You stopped. Right, you gave up.
Yeah.
And what if you gave up right at the edge? If you would have kept pushing just a little bit further, you would have been right there. But because you didn't, and because life lifed, now you're off track, and you've discredited what God has given you. And now he has to course correct you. Like, you were right there, but now because you've gotten off track, you went this way. So now you got to back up, course correct, and then go the way that he gave you. I don't want to keep doing that. Yeah. I don't want to keep living like that. Like, I feel like I feel a lot of ways. And I was like recently talking to my friend I told you about, but we were talking about like how the church has done such a disservice of lying to us about a lot of things. And we just take our pastors and ministers and preachers' word for it as if it was gold and facts, right? Instead of going to go check the fact book ourselves.
You have to think about it. Granted, some pastors are only teaching from what they were taught, but they twist it for them.
But that's also a problem.
Yeah.
Because if you're not teaching truth, are you teaching truth, or are you teaching your truth, or are you teaching the truth?
Right.
Because that's a big difference. Like, teaching your truth about a situation, or teaching the truth about all situations.
It's a big gap.
It is a huge difference, because if God says this, but your truth does not align with that, then you are a liar, because that is what the Bible says. And if we're going to believe God, and if we're going to believe his word, then we got to believe all of it. We can't just pick and choose moments where we want to believe because it pertains or applies to our current situation. Like, if you're going to believe it, you're going to believe all of it. You have to. And so when like moments like these arise where you realize like, man, and I'm somebody that's been churched. I always say I was born and raised in the church, right? So I've been in church since I was a baby, literally. When I was born, they immediately took me to the, no, I'm just kidding.
Here goes the church. There
right.
You go.
But I've been in church my whole life. I was saved when I was 3. You know, I was been baptized, 3 times? I was christened, baptized at 13, baptized again as an adult. I feel like I'm solid. But yeah, like been in church my whole life. And so to realize a lot of the narratives that we've been taught have been a lie. Mm-hmm. It's like, how many people never took the time to read the word and know for themselves? Right.
Exactly.
Because the Bible was real clear about study to show yourself approved. Like, we can't use the narrative when we die and go to heaven, and we have to have taken account for what we did. We can't use that narrative of, I didn't know, or my pastor said, because no. I said study to show yourself, not your pastor, not your minister. Like, we got to answer for that. And I'm like going back in my mind, having these like different moments and conversations where I'm remembering something that I was told, and I'm going to go look it up. Yeah. Or remember hearing a sermon or a service that took place. Like, let me go back and look that up. Like, is that biblical? Like, if we're standing on Bible, we need to really learn the Bible so we know how to stand on the Bible.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Go ahead.
Soapbox. Yes. I was going to say something. I remember us talking because you were saying something about how you've been in church all your life. How when you were 16, 17, going to church by yourself. Mm-hmm. And I don't know many people that have done that.
Not only going to church by myself, left the family church, right, and the denomination, and went to a whole other situation.
Just by yourself, up and go.
And we were talking about that because that particular church that I was going to when he met me, they would often have 6 a.m. Bible study, or not Bible study, prayer. 6 or 6:30 a.m. prayer. And I would literally go and then go to school later. So I would go to sleep, wake up, get myself. I was already driving. I've been driving since I was 14, but I would drive myself to the church for 6 a.m. prayer, pray, have a good time in the Lord, and take my tail right on to school. And then when you came along, you started coming with me. Yeah, so I would drive over to grab you, pick you up, or whatever, and then we would go to church and then go to school. It is wild. Like, when I think about that, like, especially the kids nowadays, I'm like, who out here doing that? I'm sure there are, but it was the word was important to me. God was important to me. Church was important to me. Like, it was, I don't know. I can't even really explain it, but like looking back, I'm like, I was doing that. Yeah. Like, and then we would fast. Right. Like, some of those days would be fasting days. I think it was like every Tuesday, like we would get up for a 6 a.m. prayer or something. But like, like that was a legit thing for me.
I guess because you said it's not too many. Not saying that there's not people doing it now, but it's not too many kids doing it. Right. And to that level, like you uprooted the church, so the church and denomination, as you said. But it was like, you have to be careful with some nowadays, because back then, just like how we met, it was different. And you have to be more careful. There was nobody checking for you, saying where your mom at, where your parents at, whose parents are yours,
Right. So during this time, I was 17, and nobody ever asked me like where my mom was or my dad was, who's your parents. But I also looked older than what I was, and so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But one of my friends, his mom and my mom were really good friends, and so they went there. Right. And so it was almost like, because back then you were like, you and your parents' friends or whatever would always look out for each other's kids. So it might have been one of those type of situations, but nobody ever asked me anything. Like, I was there serving in the church, doing all kind of stuff. Nobody asked me about no parents, no nothing. I was just a girl hungry for the word and hungry for church and community and stuff like that. And so, I was there. I was there until I wasn't.
We got rooted.
Yeah, life be life. And so I think we had moved away and I went to school, college and stuff. But yeah, like I feel like if more people will really get into their word, really understood what God was saying. Because it's one thing to be in your word and reading it, but it's another thing to comprehend what God is saying. And when we talk about kingdom, the Bible talks about the mysteries of the kingdom. The mysteries of the kingdom let you know that is something that's going to be revealed. That is not something that you can just
seek out.
Yeah, or like not even just seek out, but that's not something you're going to read and it's going to be like, oh, this you do step 1, step 2, step 3. Like it's a revelatory process. Like God is going to reveal things to you as you are reading. And so instead of just reading just for the sake of reading to check it off your to-do list, I feel like more people should be inquiring and asking God certain questions. Right. That's another narrative that the church used to instill in us. Don't ask God no questions and just do what he's saying and don't. But if he's telling me to come to him like a child,
you have to ask questions.
Do children not ask questions? Right. Are they not inquisitive? Right. Did I miss that memo when the kids of 2024 may not be inquisitive? Maybe that was just stuff we dealt with. Because I remember growing up always asking, why? Why is this? Why can't I do that? Why? What does this mean? No, I can't touch the fire on the stove. Why? That is being inquisitive. And so I just feel like if more people inquired and asked questions, we wouldn't be such an ignorant generation. Yeah. Ignorant on a lot of things. And I mean that with as much love as possible, but we are definitely ignorant in a lot of things that we shouldn't be ignorant in. Exactly. It's very plain. It's very simple. Like we overcomplicate things a lot. And that is highly irritating to my soul. But on the flip side of that, I am definitely grieved because I feel like we could eliminate a lot of the things that we go through and deal with if we just look to God and if we did our part instead of being like, I'm just waiting on God. God gonna fix it. God gonna do it. But he gave you the tools. He gave you the principles. When are you going to apply them? He gave you everything you needed. He's waiting on you. He's not doing anything different. He's waiting on you. And like I don't know. But my spirit is grieved and I'm like, God, how do I help? How do we as together as renewed love help a generation? Because I feel like we're just so far behind. Yeah. Scary.
For sure. How do we catch up? Like, how do we fix it? Like, it's because it's like things are still being revealed to us from way back when, and all these videos we're seeing, TikTok and stuff, and it's like, wait, this is how it's supposed to be, and it's like, okay, like you showed me a video about what the angels look like or something like that, and it was like, that makes sense now. Yeah.
Because the reference is every time you see a angel visiting someone in the Bible, the angel always says, do not be afraid. And it's like, well, why is the angel always saying that? So my understanding and interpretation is like we have these, like these super huge and tall angels. They got wings for days. And I'm sure there are some like that, but they look very humanly like or whatever. And even still, I think maybe like Don't Be Afraid may come out, but baby, when I started researching and going deep down into certain angels, or not really researching,
but just deep dive,
like a slight deep dive down to some of these angels and what they look like. What sparked it was a TikTok I saw of a mom recording her son who had just had an encounter with an angel. And she was like, draw the angel for me. And so he was like, well, the angel had like 4 human eyes, and they were like this, and they were beautiful. They were beautiful eyes. And the angel, she was like, did the angel have wings? And he was like, no, the angels, like, they don't have wings. Like, that angel was like, I don't remember how he described it. And if I could find the video, maybe I'll post it or put it in the description. But however he drew it was like an oval shaped being thing with the 4 eyes, and then it was like a circular thing. It almost looked like a planet, like how they say the planets look, like Saturn or something. Like it had the oval shape, and then it had the ring around it type of thing. And so one of the options was like a search this particular kind of angel, and I don't remember the title of the angel. Like it's cherubim, seraphim, and like all of these. So there's different types of angels, and I can't remember what this particular one was called. So I click on it and look, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, that's why you say don't be afraid. Oh, I would be very afraid.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, God, how come I can't ever see the angels and show me the pretty angels, Lord? And we're so deceived and delulu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, baby, when I saw that, I said, oh, I'm good. I'm solid. And these particular angels are the angels that sit at the right hand of God, or at the throne, on the throne room of God, or by or next to, whatever. I'm solid. I'm solid. I'm good. I'm just good. Like, so in that sense, like how Jesus is even depicted as this white man, blue eyes, long flowing hair and stuff like that. And I don't agree with the ideology that Jesus is black, but thinking of where he came from, like,
it kind of makes sense.
No. Where he came from was like near the he's Egyptian. Yeah. Like, look at Egyptian people. Like, look at the people that were in that area and what they look like. Yes, he's brown, but he's not black. Like, hair of wool and things like that. Mm-hmm. People want to take this ideology, be like, see, he got hair, he's a insert word, right? Like, he got curly hair, he got nappy hair. That's my Jesus, because he black. And it just read your word. Read your word and ask for comprehension as you are reading the word. So I digress on that. But this was a great topic. We talked about gender roles, and we kind of went left and right. Yeah.
And down the center at the same time.
Yeah. Down the center out. Quickly. All right, if you enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and leave us a like, and make sure that you are subscribed if you have not subscribed already. Drop in the comments, like, let's have more dialogue and conversation about this. Did you agree? Did you not agree? Do you want to share your take and your spin on the things that we talked about? Let us know in the comments. We read all the comments, and we love watching and reading your comments. So make sure to leave us a comment. How many times can I say comment in the outro, right?
You got a couple more in you.
We appreciate you all for journeying with us. Remember that marriage is a journey, not a destination. And as we always say, keep the faith, love deeply, and forgive freely. Until next time.